we thank Yeshua for this opportunity once again to be with his children and the opportunity to speak to his children and make it as, make us help us or edify one another. And that's what I always hope to do, to edify everyone, that, and in learning as much about Yeshua as we can. It's not, as I've said before, it's not me, it's not you, it's him. It's not about me or you, it's all about him and his love for us and what he has done for us. And so, that's what I always try to instill in people, is that it's what he's done for us is now we should be living our every moment or our lives to do what he wants us to do, and try to study and try to understand what that is in each life. I know in this book here, Ephesians, that we're talking about here, explains that grace is given according to the measure of the gift of the Messiah. So whatever he calls each other to do, then that's what we do, and he gives us the grace and the ability to do what he gives us or calls us to do. But what we all got to understand is that there's not, as this world, and I'm talking about the religious world or quote unquote church world out there, or other entities that's in it. It's not what they think, that there's just every kind of way to get into the kingdom of heaven. So there's not just every way. There's only one way that we can get in to the kingdom of heaven. And without going into a lot that I went into last week, I'll just say this, that Ephesians makes this pretty obvious, that there's one way, and that one way is through faith in Messiah Yeshua. But that faith in him is not just a proclamation of ourselves or from ourselves, that we know him or that we're serving him. It's by, we know one another by the deeds or by the works that we do. If I'm a child of Yeshua's, then I'm following him, and I'm trying, and you'll see it in my life, I'm trying to obey, what he wants me to do, and I'm trying to walk in the way that he wants me to walk, and that will be manifested in my life. But it's not through me, it's through him, and it's through my obeying him that you will see that. Not because I decide to do it, but because he has called me, and through me, or him through me is leading the life that I can be, so that I can be the light unto others. But there's only one way to do that, and if you want to use it, the Christian world or the Jewish world, or the different faiths, has got to understand that there's only one way. And when everybody understands that way and starts trying to walk in that way, then there will be what Paul here was asking about, or writing to the Ephesians about, and asking them about the unity in all believers, not just those that proclaim to be a Pentecost, or those that claim to be Methodist, or those that claim, the Baptist, and its many different denominations within itself. It's not everybody that is in Messiah will be in unity with one another. or else the Spirit will not, and in actuality cannot move if we're not in unity with one another. You know, on the day of Pentecost, when he came, and his Spirit came back on that day, the Scriptures teaches us very plainly that all that was there in that upper room that they were in, that he had told them to go and tarry there in Jerusalem, all that were in that room, the Scriptures very plainly tells us that they was of one mind and they was of one accord when the Spirit came upon them. And they all began to, magnify Yeshua and begin to, as it said, speak in tongues and magnify Yeshua as the Spirit itself gave the utterance. But they were all in one mind and one accord. There wasn't one saying this and another one saying something else. They were all in one accord. And that's the way the unity of the believers in Yeshua will be, those that are his. Now, there's so many out there that's claiming to be his that may someday be his when he enlightens them or brings them in, if he indeed calls them into his body. But there's so much out there right now that is not in unity with one another. But the Spirit and the Word of Yeshua and the Word that he gave his disciples and his apostles and his prophets, the word he gave them was that we are to be in unity. And not only that, but that's what Yeshua taught when he walked here on the earth himself, was to be in one in him. And Ephesians brings this point out. And it's specifically talking about, at that time, there was a big division in Jew and Gentile. But Paul is bringing it out that we all become a unity in the body of Messiah. And I think I covered, I kind of was bringing everybody up to the 4th chapter where I really going to take, was really wanting to take my scripture from, but I was bringing everybody up to that. And I think I got up to didn't get no further than the 2nd chapter, which I'm going to try to do faster today. But where that he had pleaded, or was making a plea there in the 2nd chapter for, all believers, the unity, the fellowship, and the unity of all of the believers. And I'm going to read. First of all, of course, I brought this out last week, but I'll start there and then we'll continue there. That, he was explaining to them that it's not of works, that the old covenant required. But our faith in Yeshua is not of those works, but it's a faith in him. The 8th verse of that says, "For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of Elohim, not of works, lest any man should boast of it," or should boast. And it says, "For we are his workmanship, created in Messiah Yeshua unto good works, which Elohim hath before ordained, are prepared, are planned, which, but it is ordained that we should walk in them." Now, and we'll start here in the 11th verse here, where he was talking about, and he's calling for the unity, as we'll read on down through the other verses here for just a minute, through the unity of Spirit of Yeshua, that we all come together in that one Spirit. And so we'll start there, and I'm not going to read all of the 2nd chapter and the 3rd chapter. I'm just going to bring out points in them to get to the 4th chapter. But this is a good one point that I do want to bring out in it, and he's talking about here. And he says, "Wherefore, remember that you being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands. In other words, you're Jews. You're not Jews. You are strangers. You're without the commonwealth. You were outside the commonwealth of Israel. You wasn't part of that at one time. You didn't have a Messiah, if you will. You didn't have a God, if you will, unless you were willing to join join Israel. Not only through the circumcision, you had to be circumcised, and you had to follow the faith or the covenant that Yahweh had made with Israel. You had to join and had to follow that. And of course, the one thing was the important thing that they looked at was the circumcision. You had to be circumcised before you could ever partake of any of the feasts or anything. You had to take that circumcision and proclaim that you are following their Elohim. And but anyway, at one time, Paul was reminding them, at one time you didn't have that. That's the only way you had it. And even at that time, and we'll get to this here in just a minute, even at that time there was still a separation between the Jew and the Gentile. Even if the Gentile came in and did what was required to do and was willing to follow the covenant, or try to follow the covenant, there was still a separation there. They were still counted a little lower than anybody else, and so that's the point I want to make. Even and I'm probably getting ahead of myself here too, but even the Jew was not allowed to intermarry with another nationality, if you will. They wasn't permitted, and there was a law and a commandment in that they were not to marry other nationalities. They were only to marry within Israel, if you will, and the children of Israel. But anyway, it'll explain that here in just a minute, where it's talking about the unity of all of the believers. But anyway, it says that at that time, when you were without him, at that time you were without Messiah, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope and without Elohim in the world. You had no hope. The Gentiles had no hope in this world as Gentiles. They had absolutely no hope. But now, Paul is saying, but now, in Messiah Yeshua, ye who sometimes, or at one time, were far off, are made nigh by the blood of Messiah. You were once that way, without hope, without Elohim. But now you are made nigh by the blood of Messiah. For he is our peace, who hath made both one. Now see, there, as I was emphasizing last week, and I still want to emphasize that thing, there is only one, and there's only one way. There's not two gods. There's not two entities. There's a Father and a Son, but they're both in one. They're both one. But of course that's a battle that people will fight you over too. But regardless, there's just one. The Father, who unveiled himself, if you will, in a veil of flesh. The Spirit unveiled itself into a veil of flesh and came and walked upon this earth and sacrificed that flesh that he unveiled himself in and gave it for everybody. not just for the house of Israel, but for everybody. So now, everybody is included. Everybody is brought in, and my Bible, my translation uses the word nigh, or brought near, brought close. Everybody is brought nigh by the blood of the Messiah, of the body that was sacrificed there on Calvary. For he is our peace, who hath made both one now. There's not Jew and Gentile. There's not a separation there anymore. We are both one, and who hath made both one, and broken down the middle wall of partition, or separation, or division, if you want to use that word. He's broken down that division that was between us. He's now broken that down to where there is no difference in Jew or Gentile, but all are all in one in the Messiah. And I'm trying to say this where people can understand. Of course, the Spirit will help you to understand anyway. But we're all are one now. It doesn't make any difference whether you're a Jew, whether you were Jew born to Jew, or Israel. I'd rather use the word Israel because there wasn't but one tribe really that was that was Jews, and that was Judah. So, but we're all part of Israel now. It don't make any difference whether you were born a Gentile. If we're all made now nigh and made one in the body of the Messiah. We're all one now, and that's what he's saying. He has broken down that middle wall of partition that was set before him. And I said to you a little bit ago how that there was a difference. Even if you as a Gentile joined Israel and you partook of the circumcision, and you followed the faith of Israel, there was still a separation there. And the Jews, really today, a lot of them even still makes that difference and makes that separation. And that's what Paul and all the prophets and in the scriptures here, they had to fight that. They had to battle that daily. Was that separation that Israel and the Jew, the Gentile, they had to battle that. They had to battle that daily, and you see it a lot, especially in Paul's writings, where that they had to battle it. But of course, Paul was the apostle called, to be an apostle unto the Gentiles. So you would see it in his writings more than you probably would see it in Peter's or James's or John's, although they do make reference to it. But anyway, that was a battle then, and even today it still is. I think Tanya and I, if I'm not mistaken, was talking about she had a friend, and I think he was a Jew, but he still made a difference. He was a Jew believer in Messiah, but he still made a difference in him and anyone that would be referred to as a Gentile. Of course, me and her, talking about that, we're saying, well, he's putting back up that middle wall of partition that was Yeshua tore down. And, so some is still trying to keep that there. But we got to understand there's nothing there anymore. You as a child of Yeshua's, it don't matter whether I'm Jew or whether I was born a Gentile, I'm still a child of the Messiah. And I am one in him. I'm part of the one body that is in him. I'm part of that. And I can be a Jew born or I can be a Gentile born. It don't make no difference. I am part of that body. And there's no difference between me and anyone else, except that that we all have different functions within that body. And he makes that, he brings that out in the 4th chapter also, where each man, as I said earlier, he brings out that each one, has our call, and we have a function within that body. And of course, Corinthians makes a good lesson in the different parts of the body. But anyway, it don't make any difference whether I'm Jew or whether I'm Gentile. I'm still one. I made a reference last week about people are wondering, and they teaching where the lost tribes of Israel are, and what are this group of people. Is this nationality a part of the lost tribes? Is that nationality a part of the lost tribes? And this and that, and it don't make any difference. I don't have to know where the 10 lost tribes of Israel is. I don't have to know even if I'm one of them. Although I could be, because I'm Irish born, or I've got Irish blood in me. I have, I believe it's Cheyenne blood in me, or Indian American. Cherokee. I'm sorry, it ain't Cheyenne, it's Cherokee. And people say, well, they're part of the tribes of the lost Israel. Irish can be part of the tribes of the lost Israel. It don't make any difference to me whether I am or not, because I am one in the body of the Messiah regardless of that. So that doesn't bother me. And besides that, I understand the one thing, about the 10 lost tribes. I may not know where they are, and I might not know who they are, but Yeshua knows exactly where every one of them's at, and he knows exactly who they are. And that's all that matters. I'm not worried about it. I'm not concerned about it. If you want to try to teach me something about that, I don't care about it. I'll tell you ahead of time. I don't care. What I do care about is learning about the Messiah, and that is not part of learning about Messiah. I'm not so smart and know so much about the Messiah that I can go into a business of his. I'm not that smart. I'm still learning about him. Still trying to walk in the way that he, and learn to walk in the way that he has asked me or called me to walk in. I'm not worried about all of his works and what he's going to do. I'm more concerned about knowing more about him, and knowing more about how I walk, how he wants me to walk in him, and doing that. And I tell you what, children, if we all would worry more about, or be more concerned about that than all this other stuff that people want to bring out, then there would be more unity in the body of the Messiah, because everyone would be trying to follow their own calling that Yeshua has called them to do. And all this other, and not only that, we wouldn't have to be, or we wouldn't be, or feel the need to be teaching about the oneness of him and the oneness of his body. Everybody would be in the unity of it, but it's not the way it is. So Yeshua is trying to, Yeshua is through his called ones that he has set in that calling, he's teaching others. Don't look at all of this, but look at me. Follow me. Obey me. Walk the way I have called you to walk. And don't worry about everything else. I'll take care of that. I'm not even to worry about what I'm to eat tomorrow. I'm not even to worry about what I'm going to be clothed with tomorrow. Because Yeshua said, if you'll follow me, if you will obey me, if you'll keep your eyes on me, I'll see to it that you've got what you need to eat tomorrow. And I'll see to it that you've got what you need to wear tomorrow. Aren't you better than the flowers in the field out here? Aren't you better than the sparrows in the sky? And yet, not one of them falls to the ground, but what he don't know it. And all the beauty of that flower out there, he caused all of that beauty of that flower that's out there. Aren't you so much better if you'll just follow him? If you'll do what he said? If you will keep the unity of the body and do your work and put your trust in him, isn't that going to take care of what you need to eat tomorrow, or you need to wear tomorrow? And he able to do that? You know, I think he is. And I place my faith in that fact that he's able to do that. And I know man many times, and or even Satan comes at you many times and saying, well, what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to eat tomorrow? What am I going to, how is this going to happen? How am I going to have the money to do this? Or how am I going to, it don't make no difference. Yeshua said that I would have what I need. And he'll see to it. Now, I may not eat a steak tomorrow, but I will eat beans and potatoes. I'll eat something that will be nourishment to me. And that's what I have faith in. I might not wear a suit tomorrow. I may not look all that good to somebody out here in this world, but I will have clothes on my back. And if it's cold, I will have a coat or garment on that will help to keep me warm.
Amen.
And it's the thing about it is, if we'll just stay in the unity of the body of the Messiah, that's what he's trying to tell us here. Having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments. And I know I got off of this a little bit, but I follow him anyway. But to kind of bring us back here to this, having abolished in his flesh the enmity. Now, what is what is that? What is the enmity? Now, you have to. That's another word that we kind of have to put in context to know really what he was, context, in order to know what he's saying, because the word can have little difference in the meaning of it, Hebrew or Greek, according to the way that it's being referred to. And it can mean hostility or hatred or opposition, an enemy or a foe, something in that matter, But having abolished in his flesh the opposition or the hostility that was between Jew and Gentile, he has abolished this, the division that's between them. He's abolished that. It says even the law of commandments in ordinances, for to make in himself of twain two one new man, so making peace. The Spirit, the Ruach, will cause us to walk in peace with one another if we are obeying him. I don't have to act like a Jew. I don't have to dress like a Jew. I don't have to do this Jewish thing, to be part of the body of the Messiah. Now, I'm not saying anything about the Jew. I'm not saying anything about the Gentile. What I'm trying to say is I can be myself in Yeshua, and that is good enough. That's good enough. And if we all be ourselves in Yeshua, that is good enough. I don't have to be anything else. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't love or that loves the Hebrew language any more than I do, even though I don't know very much of it. But I do. I love it, and I love it simply because it was part of my Messiah. And him. But I wasn't born in this life. I wasn't born with at least with the knowledge that I was a Jew, whether I am or not. I wasn't born with that knowledge, and I didn't walk in that knowledge. And now that I am a child of Him, and part of His body, I don't have to know all of that. I like it, and I like to, understand it, but I understand also that it's not that makes me part of Him.
Amen.
You know, what makes me part of Him is my faith in Him. And Him, well, His call to me and my faith in Him. That's what makes me part of Him. Not that I can speak fluently Hebrew, or I can know the definition of all Hebrew words, or that I can do. That doesn't have, that is not a part of being in the body of the Messiah. Because I'm sure at that time that Paul was writing this to the church there at Ephesus, I'm sure there was many of the body that, as far as the Gentiles was concerned, didn't understand Hebrew. You know, or they are a lot of Hebrews that was in the body didn't understand Greek or the Gentile languages. They didn't understand them, but that didn't make them separate. They were all brought together through the body of the Messiah, and they were all made one through that. And believe me, Yeshua can work out the difference between our barriers as far as language, just as He worked out the barrier as far as not being able to be part of one another under the old covenant. You know, if we go back to that one there, breaking down the middle wall, the 14th verse there, you know, as I said earlier, they were not the Jews, and they were commandments and laws under the old covenant that forbid the marrying or the intermixing or intermingling of the Israel with the Goy, with the Gentile nations. You know, there was laws and there were commandments against that fact that you didn't do it. If you want to go back to, I think it was Nehemiah, if I'm not mistaken, when they set up was coming back out of the captivity, and you know, Nehemiah came in and he seen all of these people, had these Jews, and especially the priests. You know, and you know, they had intermingled and even had kids by them, but in order to set back up the rituals that the old covenant had referred or had called for, Nehemiah made them get rid of their wives and their children. They had to send them back, you know, so. There was laws and there was commandments that forbade it, and you know, and that's what it's referring to here. That having abolished in His flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments. Now He's not talking about the 10 commandments here. It's the law of commandments that forbid the intermingling or the of the Jew and the Gentile. He broke that down and He abolished the laws that forbid it in Himself, just as He abolished a lot of the old covenant has, just as He abolished it. Hebrews is the better one to learn about that. But just as He abolished it, He abolished those the law and commandments and ordinances. And He had done it in order to make Him in Himself of twain, two nationalities, if you will, Jew or Gentile. It didn't mean whether you was Saudi Arabian or if you was Iranian, as they, you know, the different ones now. If you wasn't of Israel, you were a Gentile. You were of that nationality. You were a Gentile. You were an unbeliever. You were, you know. And you were looked on as that, but through Him, and there was commandments against those things, and laws against man, Israel, partaking of any of that, But he broke that down. He broke that laws and those commandments, or abolished those laws and those commandments, bringing, in order to make the Jew and the Gentile, one in him. And therefore, making peace. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the body of the Messiah, and you know who you are in the body of the Messiah, it doesn't make any difference. And there's peace in your heart and in your life, whether you're Jew or whether you're Gentile. It doesn't make any difference. That peace is there. And you're part of that one body. And that he might reconcile both Jew and Gentile unto Yahweh in one body by the cross, having slain that opposition thereby, or the enmity that was there, the difference, the separation that was there, the hatred even that was there. He has slain that. Now, I'm not saying that there's still not hatred there. There are, even today, there are hatred between the two, the Gentile to the Jew and the Jew to the Gentile, but not in the body of the Messiah. There's not that. It's not there. And he came and preached peace to you which were afar off, and to them that were nigh. For through him we both, Jew and Gentile, have access by one Spirit unto the Father. It don't make no difference. We all have access by one Spirit. What is that Spirit? The Spirit of Yeshua, or the Spirit of Himself, the Father. It don't matter, whichever way you want to look at that way, and that's one Spirit. That is what we have access unto the Father. And ladies and gentlemen, that don't mean that I can boldly go before the Father. The Father put the Son in place of the high priest, or made him high priest. Just as he had the Levitical priesthood, he made him high priest, that we now, to get access to the Father, we go through the Son. Now, I know a lot don't understand that, or don't teach it anyway, because they just go right straight to the Father. Father, Abba, that's Abba that, Father this. Understand, you make it your petitions, your desires, your needs known unto the Father through the Son, Yeshua Messiah. And therefore you are no more strangers or foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and with the household of Yahweh. You are now fellow citizens with them. You're not separated from them, but you are now part of them. And just as they are part, then you are part. And are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Yeshua Messiah himself being the chief corner. And my Bible also says cornerstone, but originally it was that he's the chief corner. Sometimes the words that they add in there don't make any difference. That doesn't change the fact that they put stone in there, but the original text did not have stone. It's just that he is the chief corner. And he is. Everything is built upon from him. And it says, in whom all the building fitly framed together groweth unto a holy temple unto Yahweh. And the Jew cannot do it by themselves. They cannot grow into a holy temple unto Yahweh. The Gentile cannot grow into a holy temple unto Yahweh. It takes both Jew and Gentile, all of the body of the Messiah, to grow into that holy temple unto Yahweh. It's all in one. All in one. And there's the three musketeers, all for one for all and all for one. It's all in one. It doesn't make a difference. You're either your Jew or your Gentile. Now, the third chapter explains Paul's mission that Yahweh called him into, or that Yeshua called him into, concerning the Gentiles. And he taught him how that we could be, the Gentiles, could be fellow heirs and of the same body and partakers of the promise in the Messiah by the gospel. That's the 6th verse of that chapter. That we're all brought in to. And that was his mission. That was what Yeshua called him out to be, was to preach the gospel and tell the Gentiles and go to the Gentiles and tell them, I didn't just come and die for the Jew. I come and died for you also. That if you're, by your faith in me, you have the same access and you are part of the same body as the Jew is. And, you would think, or you would get the impression a lot of times about different people's teachings and different people's speaking or opinions that they give, you would think that there's a difference that, but there is no difference in the Jew or the Gentile. I know, and as a matter of fact, as of this day that we're living in, the Jew as a nation is separated from Yahweh. He's hid his truths from them as a nation. Why? Because they are still in their sins. They still do not accept him, and they're and not willing to even abide by the covenant that he made with them back at Mount Sinai. They're still not willing to abide by that, but they claim to be. But yet there's and for this reason and for this purpose, they are still, as a nation, not as individuals, but as a nation, they are still separated from the presence of Yahweh. Now, they as individuals, they've got the same opportunity as you and I, as Gentiles. They got the same opportunity. When he opens their understanding, when he makes their call, they accept him. They're accepted with you and you and I are accepted with them, but not as a nation yet. Now, I understand and I know, according to scriptures, that one day he will call that nation. He will bring them in. But it says this right now, this day, it is not a part or not been called back into. And it's the reason is they're still in disobedience to him. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, or they want to argue against that, but it don't make any difference. You know why? I see, I've got nothing against it, so don't think I'm trying to teach or preach against it. But I see on advertisements, especially around this time of year, and it really starts between at the beginning of Hanukkah. If you'll notice on advertisements on your television or radios, you'll notice that they really kick it up about the Gentiles donating food boxes or donating money so that they can make up food boxes for the poor people of Israel. And it really kicks up and really starts around the beginning of Hanukkah, and then it continues on through the Christian holiday of Christmas is when it really kicks up, and as people and every time I hear it, I'm reminded of one thing. I'm reminded of the promise that Yahweh made to the children of Israel. That if you would follow me, I will see that your enemies cannot control you, if you will. I know I'm paraphrasing, but all of you know, and I've read, if you studied the scriptures, you know that I'm telling you the truth, that Yahweh promised them. And even when he brought them into the nation or into the promised land, Yahweh fought their battles. No one could come against them in their conquering of that land. Yahweh fought their battles. He made the statement. You're eating from the vines and that you didn't plant. You're eating from the fields and the food that you didn't grow. He provided all of this for them. And I would, and I'm reminded all the time, Israel today, and I'm just saying this for the fact, I know that it takes Yeshua to bring them all in. It takes them the calling of Yeshua to bring them out of what they're in. But all the time I'm reminded, if they had kept their faith in Yahweh, as Yahweh had asked them to do and commanded them to do, they wouldn't have to ask this world for nothing. They wouldn't have to ask this world for nothing. He would see to it that it's provided. They dependent right now. They're dependent upon the U.S. Greatly dependent upon the U.S., which is rapidly letting them slip, letting them is giving up or not doing what they should be doing for them rapidly. This administration we have in our government today is really letting the children of Israel down. But they're dependent upon this nation and upon other nations, trying to make peace for this and trying to make peace for that. When there is not going to be any peace in this world, there's only going to be a promise by man that there's peace, but then we know that sudden destruction is going to come up. But they're all trying to work toward that and are dependent upon other people, where that if they had to put their faith in Yahweh and look to Him, they wouldn't have to depend on no nation. Every nation would be dependent upon them, because Yahweh would take care of it. But of course we know we see Yahweh's plan, and we are at least parts of it, and we know that a lot of it happened in order that you and I could be brought in. But anyway, I'm just making a statement that it's Israel's fault that they gave up Yahweh to start with. And it's Israel's fault that they're even hated by all other nations, that all other nations would like to, or many nations would like to see them completely destroyed. Where their, had their trust or had their faith had been in Yahweh all the time, there wouldn't have been a Holocaust, then there wouldn't have been an Inquisition, there wouldn't have been a crusade, against them, because Yahweh would have taken care of it. But we also understand that all of this came about that you and I could be brought in into Yeshua. But there's so much to be learning here. But anyway, that was Paul's mission to the Gentiles. And Paul also asked in the 3rd chapter, and now I'm trying to close this out. Paul also asked in the 3rd chapter there for, each one of them to pray and to look for the inner growth of themselves. Under the Old Covenant, it was a natural or a carnal walk, and it was administered carnally. The New Covenant is a spiritual walk and is administered through the Spirit. And that's where Paul is making a mention for here, is through strength for inner growth, for spiritual growth, for spiritual understanding. All of our lives today is dependent upon the spiritual, as far as our dependence, our knowledge of Yeshua, and our covenant that's with Yeshua. It's all that He's made with man today is all spiritual. And that will take a long time to explain, or maybe someday we can go into that. But I don't want to go into it too big today. But it's all, and that's why Paul is saying, and asking them that they grow in, that they pray and look for inner strength. That inward man, that spiritual man that is within them. that Messiah may dwell in your hearts by faith, that ye being rooted and grounded in love may be able to comprehend or understand with all saints what is the breadth and length and depth and height, and to know the love of the Messiah, which passes knowledge, that ye might be filled with all fullness of Yahweh. Pray for that inner growth, that inner knowledge, that inner wisdom, that we may understand these things. And he's saying for the understand the breadth and the length and the depths and the heights, and he's not talking about being able to know everything Yeshua is doing out here, or going to do. But ourselves, our strength, the length, the height of who he really is. Who he really is. In this chapter where that he's explaining his ministry to the Gentiles, under the old covenant, no one knew that the Gentiles would be brought in the way that they are brought in now. That wasn't revealed unto them back under the old covenant, or back under the Old Testament, if you will. It wasn't revealed to them. It wasn't revealed until Yeshua came, gave his life on the cross, and sent back his spirit to man. And that's this gospel that you and I today have, was that actually revealed. It was only revealed in that time. Paul says that in this 3rd chapter. If you want to read all of it, you'll see where he says that. But that we might. But our prayer now is for the inner growth of that inward man, of the man of Yeshua. And the 4th chapter, and I only have a few verses here that I want to read here, and it says, I therefore, the prisoner of the Master, beseech you that you walk worthy of the vocation or the calling wherein you are called, that you walk worthy of it, with all lowliness, with meekness, with long-suffering, forbearing one another in love, and endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Keeping that unity in the Spirit. And not saying, well, my way is the only way. There's only one way, and that is through Yeshua. And that is not claiming to be in Yeshua and then doing your own way, but it's through Yeshua. Endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. There is one body. Listen to this. Jew or Gentile. There is one body. There's one Spirit. Even as you are called in one hope of your calling. One Lord, one faith, one Master, one faith, and one baptism. One Elohim and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. And if some of you wonder about what I was talking about earlier, that's the Spirit enveloping itself into flesh and coming and walking here on the earth in the flesh. That was the Spirit or the Father within himself. That scripture right there tells you that that's what it was. Because if you read the rest of the scriptures, there's only one that's promised to come back and send the Comforter, and not only call himself the Comforter, but he also, he said, I am going to be the one in you. I'll be in you. And you find it in John. And that was Yeshua promising that he would be in us. And here he's saying, well, there's one Elohim and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. That one Spirit, Father and the Son, all one Spirit, and that's all there is. There's one Master, Right now we worship that one Master through what we refer to, or what is the scriptures refer to as the Son, Yeshua Messiah. We worship Him. We worship the Father, the Spirit, through the sonship of the Father. Now, one of these days, and you read this in Galatians, Colossians, one of these days, when all things has been put under Yeshua's feet, death being the last one, when all things are put under his feet, then he's going to turn the sonship is going to turn to the Father and say, it's all given unto you. Now, read that in Galatians. I want to say the first Galatians, but it may be second. Galatians. Corinthians. May be First Corinthians. I'm thinking first, but it may be in Second Corinthians. You read them both, you'll know. And also you'll learn something. But anyway, but unto every one of us is given grace according to the measure of the gift of the Messiah. You know, and he goes on and talks about the one that ascended and descended and gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and teachers, some pastors and teachers, for the perfecting of the saints and for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Messiah. Not bodies, but the body of the Messiah. Until we all come into unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of the Messiah. And the last verse that I'll read here is that we be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men, or the craftiness of men, and cunning craftiness, whereby they lay in wait to deceive. And that is so prevalent in the world today. The willingness of the anti-Messiah to deceive, if it were possible, the very elect's sake. And we're not to be tossed to and fro and ask this or wonder about this and is this right, is that right? If you'll follow the Messiah, he'll show you who he is and you can follow him. And when you do, it'll be everyone that is doing that will be in unity, one with another. There'll be one, and it'll be in unity, one with another. Hope you understand and got something out of these two lessons. But until next week, Shalom Aleichem. Peace be unto you.